Hello, everyone. We've had a bit of a tech issue today with LinkedIn Live and going live and everything. So apologies if you're watching this again, but it looks like LinkedIn kicked us off. But we're going to start again. We're going to pretend what happened before didn't happen again. So if you're watching this on repeat, apologies, but we're going to go again. So my name is Advita Patel. I am the founder of Comms Rebel, and if you can't tell behind me, that neon sign. Comms Rebel helps to revolutionize cultures from inside out, where we help people and employees thrive in the work that they're doing. And today's guest, I am joined by the incredible John Porter, who is one of the co-founders of Engage Solutions. Now, Engage Solutions is the company who's behind my Comms Rebel app. And if you haven't downloaded my Comms Rebel app, you can find it on Google Play or on the Apple Store. Just search for Comms Rebel and you can download it for free. And on there, we've got incredible resources. We've got community chats. I share content on there as well about things that you might be interested in. It's for anyone who's interested in building cultures of inclusion, employee experience, and anything around comms and HR, basically. And it was John and his fabulous team that helped me put that together. I'm going to get John to reintroduce himself once again. So, John, do you want to tell the fab folks who are watching who you are today?
Yeah, by all means.
Who you are generally, not just today.
Not just today, yeah. But I think I know who I am today anyway, so that's a good start. So I'm John. I'm one of the co-founders of Engage and I'm head of customer success. We're based in central Manchester. I live in Formby, where I am today at home with my wife, Lisa, and my youngest daughter still here, Leah. I've got my eldest daughter, Alice, who's 25, traveling around Australia at the moment. And I've got my stepson, Joe, who I'm very proud to say I was best man to at his wedding a few years ago, who lives locally with his wife, Ellie, in Formby. So that's just a bit of a snapshot of me.
Love that. And your daughter in Australia is also a journalist, right? And she's writing, when we thought we were live before it kicked us off, we were talking about how she's written that Liverpool is one of the top 20 cities in the world to live in, right? Number 7 it came in at.
It is, yeah. So Alice is living the best life at the moment, traveling around Australia, working from a laptop. She's a freelance journalist. And there was a report recently that Liverpool came 7th as the 7th best city in the world. And I asked Alice if she'd do the section within the report that talked about how great Liverpool is and why it got voted as the 7th best city globally. So yeah, we're really proud of her.
That's amazing. What a job that is. You know, when you have these kind of dreams and visions about what you want to do when you grow up, you know, I have to say, traveling the world and writing about the places you visit is up there for me, definitely.
And she's wanted to be a journalist since she was 13, so she is living her dream, yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. I absolutely love that. So, John, for the people who may not know what Engage Solutions does, you're based in Manchester, and you know, like I said, that you helped us put together the Comms Rebel platform. But do you want to give a quick synopsis of exactly what services and products you do offer the clients that you work with?
Yeah, so as a business, our why, the reason we exist, is to work with our clients to create thriving colleague communities. That's why we wake up in the morning. And it transcends that employee engagement category into thinking about who are those communities that need to be engaged to create those successful outcomes for the community itself and for the organization. And that might be, yes, your payroll employees, but then thinking more broadly around franchises, contractors, suppliers, business partners, even customers, just to bring in those communities together and to make them thrive. So that's why we exist. We do that in 2 ways. Firstly, through our technology. So Engage is a mobile first consumer grade engagement platform. And it's a mixture of that and our expertise as people. So our engagement know-how, we're passionate about engagement. We've got engagement frameworks that we use to work with our clients to align with them on their engagement strategy at board level. And it's that engagement knowledge and framework coupled with the mobile first consumer grade tech that help create those thriving colleague communities. And from a product, it's an engagement, it's a mobile first engagement platform that we've built.
Which I, you know, and as somebody who's now been part of this world and the support you and your team are giving me for my app, it's just such a brilliant app. And obviously I'm biased because we use it and we use that platform, but I'm also part of the Vocal community, which is Jürgen Meyer. I know that you supported Jürgen and his mission and vision in life to kind of get these new voices out and about, and he uses your platform as well to kind of distribute some of those messages and connect his community in this space as well. One of the challenges that we often face as communication professionals and HR professionals, to be fair, is this kind of concept of this thriving community. You know, we've gone through quite a challenging 4 or 5 years in this across the world, right? And people are working in different parts of the world now, even though the same organization. There's more remote working happening, there's hybrid working. I know there's like debate going on at the moment about back to the workplace and all that kind of stuff, but generally, you know, most folks, I think, most office-based folks, I should add, are having a bit of flexibility in terms of working a couple of days at home and a few days in the office, which means that that traditional mindset of 9 to 5 sat next to a colleague on a day-to-day basis, it doesn't really longer exist. And I suppose your platform is to continue building that thriving community for those to drive the business outcomes, right? How do we help our colleagues understand what it is that they're there to do, what value they're bringing, how they're contributing to the success of that organization? But we say it a lot, but what are the benefits of this kind of community building? Why is it so important for organizations to focus some energy on it? You know, it's not just about coming to work, delivering your objectives and disappearing off, right? It is, you gain more from community building. But what are some of the key benefits that you've seen with some of the clients that you've supported?
Well, I think from a technology perspective, the quick win is connectivity. You know, people are working remotely, people are working in different countries, people are working in different stores. We work a lot in retail, so just enabling to connect the community through their phone is a real quick win to bring people onto that same page. And then it's really, thinking about trying to create an environment, which you've done a fantastic job of, Advita, I must say, of people feeling like a belonging to that community. Yeah. They feel connected to that community. You can encourage people to participate within that community, and people by people, right? That's like a basic principle of life. People by people, and by participating within that community, people are buying into the community, and that can lead to in the business world things to improving retention, improving participation, even improving like productivity and sharing ideas and things like that. But the basics of it is bringing that community of interest together, identifying who they are, and then starting to create that environment where they feel safe and motivated to engage.
Yeah. And then I think one of the challenges that we often face as a function, so comms teams are normally the ones who are supporting with the content generation, allocating community managers to support this. One of the biggest pieces of feedback I often get when I work and support some of these clients around platforms like, the community apps and even things like Viva Engage, those kind of things, is that time and resources. How do we get, and it's been a question that's been part of the world for a long time, right? I've worked in internal comms now for over 20 years, and there's always something. How do we get people to engage with this platform? How do we get people involved in the conversations? How do we make it more appealing for them so they want to contribute their thinking and thoughts? A lot of people, I think I read a stat not so long ago actually, that LinkedIn, right? There's over, I think, 1 billion people on LinkedIn or something ridiculous like that. The numbers are quite high, but yet only 1% of the people who engage on that platform post and connect and have conversations. And if you translate that into kind of internal technology and internal platforms, it's probably the similar. You have a lot of lurkers. You may have people that kind of dip in and out. But what are your kind of top tips? What have you seen that works incredibly well from some of the organizations that you support that they do that brings people into the conversation? We talk a lot about inclusion and building that belonging piece. But what top tips do you have, or have you seen some good examples of where that works well to build that community spirit and get people engaging on the platform and talking and sharing and connecting? What is it that you've seen that works well?
Well, I think initially with any community, you've got to look at, what's in it initially for them, what's in it for those individual members of the community, to get them, downloading the app, engaging with the app from the get-go. And usually it does start with thinking about them and what's in it for them. And we have a framework that we call the 5 pillars of engagement, which are communication. So ensuring you can communicate the right information to the right people at the right time. Accessibility, which is where you're providing members of the community with easy access to resources and information that they need. And we often become that single pane of glass into that organization. So we'll integrate with HR systems, learning platforms, benefits platforms. So it's just making it an easier place to go to access information. Enablement. Sorry, Aditya.
So I was just going to say that community one's quite important, right? So you can support organizations in connecting and integrating other platforms that they have in the workplace. So everyone just goes through a single sign-on. Is that what you mean on that?
Exactly. Yeah, we tend to become that single pane of glass that you go into your Engage platform and you can interact with your community. You can get the information you need from Engage, but then you can link to all those other systems as well. So from a colleague experience perspective, it makes it a better experience. And doing that around the colleague life cycle, right from the minute they're interested in coming to work for an organization, engaging with people through the attraction stage, the recruitment stage, the onboarding stage and beyond. It's just a much better experience. It makes sense for that person to get involved in that community. And then the other pillars are enablement, so enabling that life cycle I've just described. And then the last 2 pillars are recognition, so consistently recognizing people for achievements. Might be long service, it might be participation, could be the birthday. And then the final pillar is feedback, giving people that voice. So the pillars are a great way to get people into the community, into the platform, because there's lots of reasons why. But then as far as how do you keep people in that community, it really is then trying to foster that collaboration and that engagement. And I got asked by one of the chief execs of one of our healthcare providers before Christmas, what's a tip for keeping people active within the community? And one of the things I've seen for many years is that senior leaders have real difficulties in communicating and engaging with colleagues, particularly in larger organizations with thousands of people. But technology makes it quite easy for senior leaders to be visible and to be connected to the colleagues. And that is one of the key drivers of keeping people active, because once they're in, if they can see the chief exec making a post about a visit they've just made to one of the stores, or see the people director making a post around somebody who's had their long service, people are more likely to stay within that community because they want to be participating with their colleagues and with the senior leaders. So participation is key, particularly across the C-suite.
Yeah. And so it's so good that CEO kind of was quite inquisitive and curious, what do I need to do more? How can I build this more engagement? How about those CEOs and leaders? Because you're right, in the years I've worked in IC, when senior leadership engages on these platforms and has, and are vibrant in their visibility in these spaces, people do stay, people do connect, people do have conversations because they feel seen and heard. And especially, if that platform is available across the entire breadth of the organization, from the folks who are right on the front line or on the factory floor, or working in the more manual roles and labor roles, come all the way up to the head office, I suppose. It just makes people feel more valued, right, and more included. But some of the challenges that we often hear from the community is that our leaders are not engaging, they're not participating, they are refusing at times to go on there. What advice do you have for anyone who may be struggling to influence some of these leaders to kind of, take part and participate and engage more on these platforms? Because, we can show them the data, I suppose, but is there any top tips or techniques you have come across that you could share?
I think one of the challenges is we call it social posting within our platform. So for an individual to make a post into the community, like you do on LinkedIn, really, Advita, and within your Comms Rebel app. And I think one of the challenges is that some people are more confident in making a social post than others. And I think sometimes there's some overthinking happening where, if we stick on the senior leaders example, they might think that the post they make might need to be really thought-provoking around the organization, really insightful, and that they spend that much time thinking about it, they never actually do it. And there was a great example recently where one of our CEOs basically posted a photo onto their app of him having his flu jab. And it was literally while he was having his flu jab, he took a selfie like you would do on Facebook and posted it, straight onto the feed. So every colleague, I think there's 11,000 colleagues in that business, they would all see that on their feed next time they come in. And it had, I think 25% of the workforce liked that post. Wow. And people were making comments on the post because, again, people buy people. So it doesn't need to be, an insightful, thought-provoking post. Yes, they're great, but just be yourself and just engage.
It's that vulnerability, right? We talk a lot about, we in the sense that in the work that I do, we talk a lot about vulnerability. Brené Brown is one of, I would say, the queen of like the power of vulnerability. And if you don't know any of Brené's work and you're interested, then first, the best book I would ask you to read is The Power of Vulnerability, and then Dare to Lead. And she also does a Netflix documentary about vulnerability and what that looks like, because that's what it's about. There's this kind of negative connotation attached to vulnerability. I read a post actually on LinkedIn not so long ago from somebody, I think actually it was shared by a friend of mine, and the person had written, don't show too much vulnerability in the workplace. And I said this to Chaya last week, the other guest I had, because if you show too much vulnerability, then you're going to get called out. Like it's going to catch you out and they're going to use it against you, which is just such an interesting concept, because to your point, John, that realism that you can bring to the conversations and the posting and the connectivity is what builds that culture of inclusion, to be honest with you. That trust that you have with that leader, your peers, your colleagues. It's not trust, we hopefully everybody who works in the workplace, we know they're technically able, because otherwise they wouldn't be there. There's some there will be people that are not, and that's a different story. But generally, most people that you work with are technically able, right? We know they can do their job well. What I found in the world of inclusion is that connection. Is I don't know them, they don't know me. We only ever connect when we're in a meeting, and now we're a hybrid, or now we do things through Teams or through Zoom or whatever. We don't build that connection. So it's that trust bit. And that chief exec who took a selfie of himself, having the flu jab, shows an element of vulnerability, right? In that, look, I'm a human being. Like, I want to protect myself from the flu season, and I'm showing you. Like, it's not just about strategies, objectives, and return on investments. It's about real human connection. And it's something that I 100% value, and I recognize, to your point, that the 5 pillars that you mentioned, when those 5 pillars are done well and people can understand the why, why is this organization doing this? Why are they creating this platform? Why is it important to me? The what's in it for me? Then it does thrive, right? And we've had taken my personal experience with the platform. It's the first time I'm aware that a consultancy has created a platform for the community, right? And it's a learning curve for us, right? So we've got just under 600 people in there. I mean, no, it's not as engaging as it could be, but we're trying things out. We're piloting new things. We're trying to build a community. We're trying to get conversations going, and we're not fearful of it. And I think that's important. When you think about some of the clients that you work with, and where you can obviously share, who are the most, like, what's the greatest benefits they've gained? What have they seen from investing in a platform like yours in terms of outcomes? Have you had any kind of good stories and stuff?
Yeah, I think from a retention perspective, I mean, I tend to work within my role at executive level, understanding the challenges of an organisation and aligning with them on their engagement strategy. And right across our client base, for the sectors that have those real retention challenges, people often leave within the first 6 to 12 months. And that might be because they've not been the right fit for the business wasn't the right fit for them, might have been their onboarding experience. So, looking at better engaging with candidates through those early stages, and then improving those processes during the onboarding processes to make sure that first, couple of months involvement with the organization is engaging and is a good experience, is key for improving retention, because most people leave within the first 6 to 12 months if they're going to leave. So looking at those first 3 stages of the life cycle: attraction, recruitment, and onboarding, and really driving enhanced engagement through those stages really does help with your retention challenges. And then technology enables you to automate a lot of processes, things like recognition, long service, and things like that. Where tech has got a great part to play is just looking at some of those processes that might be really manual and costly for the organization's HR team or comms team to enable. Lots of that type of stuff can be streamlined and automated through the technology as well, which gives a lot of benefit from an ROI from a time-saving element.
Yeah, the automated thing is I think it's so important. Working in certain organizations, and even in my in-house career, the different platforms that we had, from HR platforms to the pay platform to an app that brought the community together and stuff, and people do get a bit bored and disengaged from all of that because they're just like, it's too much, like I've got so much going on. And if you think about the world we're in today, we are contending with a lot of noise, aren't we? We've got social media platforms now, we've got other apps that people are bringing in and getting people to get engaged with and that kind of stuff. So we do have to work harder, I would say, and make it more meaningful and personalized to the community that we're trying to attract. And the employee life cycle, John, in my opinion, and it's something that I use frequently, is critical in this. We have to know the journey that our employees are taking in our organization and what access points they have at every point. Like, what is it that we're communicating? Because it's so different from the attraction stage to the onboarding stage to the training and development stage, right? All of that, traditionally it's all kind of falling 100% in HR, which I agree it is. That journey and people is HR's kind of world. But as comms professionals who are developing content, we should know in our heads that what is that journey that we're taking, and when do we need to kind of communicate through what channel at what point to these different parts. Because I think I read a fact again about how much it costs to recruit somebody into a role, like 10, 15, 20, 30, 40,000 pounds per person, depending on the level that they're at. And looking at your retention numbers, and if they're leaving, then there's a problem for in my opinion, there's always a problem around connection and trust. Generally, that's why people tend to leave, right? And pay and reward comes after that when you do the research and the conversations. But yeah, so we will share links.
Sorry,
John.
I was going to say on that, we're seeing a trend as far as that retention in that recruitment stage before they begin. There's a real trend, particularly in retail, where people have accepted the job offer, but as they go through that recruitment stage, they have their head turned last moment and they go somewhere else, and you've invested that money in attracting them and recruiting them, and they've gone. So making sure that you're effectively engaging with them through those stages is a great example of an ROI. Just something else you touched on around personalization. I think that really is key. I mean, my people expecting the personalized with these types of apps to be having relevant information when they go into Facebook or LinkedIn, and you've got to be better than the old intranet style solutions. It's got to be the right message, the right information to the right people at the right time, because they just expect it. And personalization means the journey's relevant, the community's relevant, and the participation will then increase.
Yeah. We're not the best, I have to admit, in some of our, and I'm generalizing here a lot because there are some incredible organizations who are fantastic at personalization, but in my experience and the work that I get involved in, we're not brilliant at it. And our colleagues expect it because that's what they get outside of work, right? That personalized experience from various different organizations that they connect with, from retail, shopping and all that kind of stuff, to healthcare, right? The people are becoming quite smart with how that is. So we do need to be a bit smarter, I would say, with personalization, and that's how a platform like, you know, what Engage produce can help, I would say, in that space.
And I think it's one of the challenges. Sorry.
No, carry on.
I'm talking too much.
No, go for it. It was one of the challenges.
I think one of the challenges that we're forever trying to overcome is, you know, working with clients to initially make that change and invest that time in the change to the way they might be communicating. As an example, they might be communicating a lot in more traditional ways via email. We still see notice boards in some of our, you know, in manufacturing organizations when we meet them. So although there might be better ways to communicate, i.e. engagement platforms, there still needs to be that appetite for change within the organization, and the some efforts needed to change initially. So it's getting people to commit to that time to think about how you communicate and what is that change that needs to take place. And then once you're committed to that, it does become more effective and easier than in the future. But initially, going through that pain of the change can be quite a challenge to get people to buy into that.
You're 100% spot on. Yeah, definitely. Oh gosh, I could talk about this all day, that thriving community is and how we build that connection. But last week, we asked our wonderful guest, Chaya Mystery, to leave a question for you for this week. And Chaya's question was, what do you do that's creative?
Well, I think from an Engage perspective, we're always looking at creative ways to drive engagement and drive involvement within the platform. And we, for a couple of years now, we've embedded augmented reality into the platform, and augmented reality can be used in lots of different ways. For an example, you might have a chief exec doing a quarterly update that might be on video historically. Whereas with augmented reality, you can point your phone at your desk, and that person can pop up, that CEO can pop up stood on your desk, giving you that augmented reality version of that company update. And it's just a great way of creatively getting people talking about what they've just seen within the platform, and you know, and bringing more people into the platform because of the creative ways that you're engaging. And augmented reality is a great way of doing that. And you know, we're probably a little bit ahead of the curve. It's still not a core part of organizations. You're seeing it in lots of like manufacturing companies now, where they're using it for training around equipment and things like that. But I think that from an engaged point of view, that's a really creative way of trying to drive community engagement.
Yeah.
Personally, you might not think this is creative, but personally, I'm a snooker enthusiast. I played snooker at a very high level when I was young, and I didn't play for many years, but I've started playing again. And I think that's quite a creative sport, because you're thinking no game's ever the same. The ball's going to different places. You've got to creatively think about how you're going to go around that next shot, and it's a good mixture of body and mind. So I think snooker's actually quite a creative game.
I think you're right.
Many would disagree. Many would say it's very boring, I'm sure.
No, I don't think it is. You know, if you think about, I mean, I love pool, right? So I am not the best at all, but you have to strategize when, you know, how you're going to play the game. You've got to be a bit clever about it. You've got to move, you know, it's I think people underestimate sometimes the skill that they have in some of the stuff they love doing. You know, when they think, oh, it's just this, and I'm just doing that. It's like, no, it's actually quite, I think anything like that, sports, music, you know, that kind of stuff is very creative, depending on how you kind of, you know, break that down. So I love that, John. If people wanted to find you, engage with you, understand a little bit more about what you do, where is the best place for them to find you?
Well, from a website point of view, from Engage's point of view, it's www.engagesolutionsgroup.com. So lots of really useful resources and information on there that would help people to understand more about how to build a thriving community. And I'd say LinkedIn's the best place for myself. I'm active on LinkedIn. Connect with me on LinkedIn. My email address is john.porter@engagesolutionsgroup.com.
Fab. And we'll share all of your details in the underneath this video anyway, so people can connect if they want to know more information. And I can you believe that the time is nearly up. So I need to ask you, what is your question for our next guest?
Well, I'm glad you prepped me on this, because my dad, who's no longer with us, unfortunately, said to me many, many years ago, probably in my early 20s, he said, just be yourself, and nobody can be yourself better than you can.
Yeah.
And that was probably one of the best bits of advice I've ever been given, because whatever situation I'm in, I just try to be myself, because that's all you can be. So I'd say that's the one best bit of advice I've ever been given by my dad. So my question is, to your next person next week is, what's the one best bit of advice that you've ever been given?
Love that. Love that question. Amazing. Thank you so much for your time today, John. That has flown by, and I made John do this nearly twice because the first time it just didn't work properly. So thank you for your patience, John, for technology. But if it's going to happen with anyone, at least it's happened with somebody who understands the world of tech and some of the challenges that we face. So I'm pleased it was you. If you want to understand more about the app and experience it yourself, then Comms Rebel app, the platform, is the best place for you to experience that. So you can actually see in action how the Engage Solution Group develop platforms and what that kind of looks like. So like I said, go along to the App Store, to Google Play, type in Comms Rebel, and you can download it. Once we verified you, because we do verification because it's important that the community is safe and inclusive. So we will ask you for your LinkedIn URL or some other form of identification. Once you've got accepted, you'll get access to the full experience where you can have a look around and see what it's about. And if you have any questions or thoughts about it, then obviously please do let me know. But we will back again next week at 11:30 live on LinkedIn, and we're also going live now on Instagram. So those of you who are watching on Instagram, welcome to our very first Curious Rebel TV that we've gone live with. And like I said, if you've got any future suggestions for guests for our next season, then please do get in touch, and I will see you all next week. Thank you again, John.
Nice to see you, Advita. Have a nice weekend.